Beloved angels of planet Earth, it is time to remember who you are and why you are here. We are leaving a period of darkness and entering into the age of light. It is time to remember your divinity, your sovereignty, and your power. Join me on this journey as we explore the life-changing experiences of a spiritual awakening and the ascension journey. And we deep soul dive into the oceans of truth. And together, we will raise our vibration, heal our hearts, expand our consciousness, and activate codes of awakening within our soul.
Unity yan duality dan dualitaya. Yantiki dan dualitar.
Hello, family of Earth. I am Jenna Ajna Love, and welcome to Codes of Awakening, where we deep dive into the oceans of truth and the bittersweet transformations, activations, and initiations of a spiritual awakening and the ascension journey. We are going to get up close and personal, sharing hearts, stories, visions, wisdom, and experiences in truth and authenticity, with the hopes to uplift, inspire, and activate codes of awakening within you. In our last episode, we dissected the Phantom Matrix Soul Prison, and we discussed steps for Krystic liberation with my fellow Starseed Sea Star, Z Earth Star Healer. In this episode, I have a very special treat for you. My beloved sacred partner and I are going to share our story of divine synchronicity and all of our mystical experiences since our souls reconnected on this journey together, and how our love became the catalyst to our awakening. We will be sharing our commitment to each other's spiritual path and the intense karma that we've had to face together, and our devotional sacred spiritual marriage, walking the Krystic path in divine union with the commitment to be of highest service to humanity during these times of planetary ascension. My beloved is a true divine masculine who has overcome an immense amount of adversity in this lifetime that left him in a very low place. His painful karmic past and lack of love, guidance, and support growing up led him deep into the 3D matrix, where climbing the ladder of success in the financial industry became his coping mechanism that ultimately almost killed him. Through the trenches of the underworld and under mounds of inner sadness, he eventually heard the voice of God beckoning him to remember his light, truth, power, and divine mission on this journey. He eventually lost everything that was attached to his old life when a lightning strike hit his life, and his path was cleared of all distortions to align him with his highest spiritual path and life's purpose. From rags to riches to rags, he found himself stripped bare of everything at the lowest point of his life, when in that moment, little did he know, he was being completely reborn. His path led him to an incredible twist of fate, a vertex that little did he know would change his life forever. The day his soul reunited with mine, on that very special day in June of 2009. It was a magical and mystical encounter of divine synchronicity and divine intervention. Two starseed twin souls who became lost in the 3D world were brought back together in this time of ascension to become activated into their highest spiritual purpose together, side by side in divine Hiero union. On that day, we both know deep within our souls that something miraculous was taking place and that our lives would be changed. We knew that this encounter was to be respected, honored, and protected at all costs. We knew that we have been together before, and we agreed to find each other in this lifetime to be activated into our divine mission in full dedication and devotion to our ascension path, and assisting in the liberation of humanity through our commitment to heal and become vessels of love, light, and high vibration through which source energy anchors light onto our beloved planet, helping to restore God's eternal divine plan. Saha is a brave and courageous spiritual warrior who has transcended the darkest of tribulations on his life path and severed all cords that kept his soul in prison. He is a path cutter, polarity integrator, steward of light, and solar king Arthur archetype who stands for justice and is a defender of truth and protector of the sacred feminine, the innocent children, and the cosmic heart principle of Earth. Together, we walk the Krystic path in full dedication to our healing, consciousness expansion, self-mastery, and being of service to others and our beloved planet by experience and wisdom as ascension educators and spiritual guides, leading sacred spiritual ceremonies, applying our love for shamanic journeying, qigong, energy work, health and wellness, and hands-on healing to all who are looking to deepen their connection to their mind, body, soul, and spirit. We assist in energy body integration, deep soul healing, and self-mastery through various healing modalities. We are passionate about bringing the divine masculine and the divine feminine back into wholeness by being a walking emanation of love, light, wisdom, and devotion to the sacred marriage and unification within our own inner spirit, our divine union with one another, and most importantly, our deep connection and devotion to our union with God's source. Please welcome my sacred partner and twin soul, Saha Love. Hello, my love. Thank you for joining me today on Codes of Awakening.
Hello, my beautiful beloved. Thank you for having me. It was quite a surprise when you asked me to be here, and I'm really looking forward to co-creating something magnificent here today with you and sharing our beautiful story.
I'm definitely excited as well. I think during these times, it is such a beautiful and important thing that we all share our divine synchronistic stories, because that is what is lighting up the world right now. You know, just talking about the good, the bad, the ugly, just all of the things that happen with a divine union and how these divine union, sacred marriage relationships are activating the planet right now during this ascension. So I'm very excited to be sharing our story here today. So before we get started, we are just going to do our little opening prayer just to set the space and put a protective bubble around our container here today. So I'm just going to ask everyone to close your eyes, put your hand over your heart, take a few nice deep breaths. I now call in the divine energy of the God Source Unified Field. I invite in all benevolent teams, guardians, angels, and spirit guides of 100% light, asking for you to join us in this sacred container as we all connect our hearts and consciousness in unity. Bathe us in your holy light of protection, keeping us safe from negative energy and negative outside influences as we share our hearts and wisdom with the intention to be of service to humanity, aligned in unconditional love, humility, and authenticity. I humbly allow my vessel to be infused with your love, light, healing, and wisdom, offering myself as a conduit of your healing rays, reflecting the holy fire of spiritual alchemy to all who are in my presence today. May your divine grace seal this container with love and protection. Thank you, Holy Presence. And so it is. Alrighty. So, my love, let us dive in. And so before we get to the juicy part of our divine synchronicity and our mystical encounter that happened to us on this journey, I would love for you to just share a little bit about your backstory, a little bit about who you are and your journey, some of your challenges that you had to overcome leading up to our divine encounter and ultimately what led to your awakening.
Sure, love. For me, it really started in my first moment of awareness when I was about 3 years old. I just remember standing inside this house, looking around, and just asking myself, where am I? How did I get here? And who the hell are these people anyway? Referring to my family, of course. It was also in that moment that I just knew I was very different. A stranger in a strange land, if you will. But it was also in that moment that I knew life here wasn't going to be easy for me. My parents were addicts. My father, a narcissist, a severe alcoholic who is extremely violent and abusive. My mother, she was battered, and she used alcohol to escape from her own pain. I was abused in every way imaginable. And for me, this was a daily occurrence, as predictable as brushing my teeth or going to the bathroom. And it lasted my entire childhood. I didn't know love, only pain. My parents were never around and never available. I had nowhere to turn, nobody to talk to. I was really left to kind of figure everything out on my own. It was a very scary and dark period for me. But on my 12th birthday, I felt that this horror story was going to end when my father was arrested. But after he was released from jail and rehab, things between us only intensified. He always blamed me, he never forgave me, and he continued with his aggression towards me. The difference this time was I wasn't backing down, and I was standing up to him. And this only made him angrier, and things got very personal between us. Throughout my childhood and into my early teen years, I was bullied, and I started acting out in rebellious ways. My relationships with girls were a complete disaster. I didn't know how to love or even to receive love. I was completely closed off. College for me, that was an escape plan, not a life plan. I bounced around from college to college until I finally graduated. And shortly thereafter, I landed my first job in the financial industry. The financial industry came easy for me. I was a natural, if you will. And I was immediately put on the fast track. The success, it fed me. It became my escape. It covered up all of my pain and even became my addiction. I was addicted to the adrenaline of success and the power that it gave me. During this time, my relationships with women only continued to fail. I wanted love and to be loved so badly, but I just didn't know how. I jumped from one relationship to the next, looking for that deep love I wanted so badly and craved so much. You know, that Notebook kind of love. About 2 or 3 years into my career, I was sitting in my office one morning when I received a horrific phone call. My brother had just been murdered. I immediately left my job and I began using alcohol as my escape. After about 6 months of abusing myself, the pain I had buried from my childhood began to surface again, and it only intensified. I felt the pressure building, and I knew I needed change, and I needed it fast. So I decided to move away from my hometown to try to break free from the roots that kept me anchored in that pain and trauma and sadness. And shortly after moving, I began working in the financial industry again. I got back on the fast track, only this time working even harder to try to keep that pain buried. By the time I was 30, to the outside world, I had it all. I had the big house, the fancy cars, a lot of money, and a lot of so-called friends. But behind those doors of materialism, the pressure cooker was about to explode. I had just learned that my father died. Now, it wasn't the news of his death that really caused me so much pain, as much as it was the letter that I wrote him about 6 months earlier, after I learned that he was terminally ill. In writing this letter, it was my hope to get some resolve, some closure, perhaps even an apology. But I got nothing, and was left with so many unanswered questions and unhealed emotions. So once again, I responded the only way I knew, and that was to bury myself into work once again. But this time it was different. I began building more businesses, real estate, retail, e-commerce, and more. I was on a mission to build an empire. Building an empire, I thought, would be my ultimate revenge. But at this time, I also made a conscious choice to put my connection to God, the All One, in the closet. I was in a relationship with someone where we just weren't aligned from this perspective, or any perspective for that matter. I always considered myself to be awake, and always felt my connection to God. I also had many mystical experiences along the way, both as a child and as an adult, including many visits from my brother after he passed. I attributed all of my success to God, but I also blamed God for all of my failures and my pain. I just didn't understand why I had to experience so much pain and trauma in this lifetime. Then, in 2007, 2008, things suddenly became very challenging for me on every front. I started to escape through alcohol again, and I even started using recreational drugs. Businesses that were thriving suddenly became a struggle. Deals started to unravel and fall apart. One business I had even burnt down. I was so confused and began crying out to God again. I felt so sad, so alone, I even wanted to die. I didn't understand what was happening to me, but honestly, it was the lowest point of my life. But little did I know that God was already answering my call, and something incredible was waiting for me. And that something was you, love. And it didn't take me long to understand that God was always working for me, trying to remove all things that weren't aligned with my spirit. And this included everything I owned and everything I thought I was. A story of rags to riches and riches to rags, like you mentioned at the onset, love. This really was a beautiful transformation from material wealth to spiritual abundance. And I'm so humbled by this experience and so grateful and honored to be sitting here today to share our story with those who tune into your frequency. So thank you again, love, for having me here.
Well, as many times as I hear your story and know your story, because we've been together for 14 years, which
Wow.
is insane.
It's incredible.
Still going strong.
Well, yeah.
As much as I hear your story, it always still is, it's new every time, because it's intense, and I can feel it in my soul and my heart, because I know everything that you've gone through. And, we all have a story. And I think one of the incredible things that about you and I and our connection, right, is that when we met, we were really shocked to know how very similar our stories actually were. Not exact, they were very different, because we actually have some years between us, but the pain and the suffering and the adversity and a lot of the experiences that we had were very similar. Right. So when you and I, prior to meeting, it's fair to say we were both very, very sad, very lost, even though the outside world would never think it ever, because, you were, successful in Wall Street, and you had your big house, your fancy cars, you had your money, living large in the 3D matrix. Right. And I was, a singer in a band, and, I was modeling, and I had my own business, right? So the outside world looked at us and literally didn't think that there was nothing wrong, right?
That's
they
right.
would just assume that we had it all together and that we were fine, we were happy, right? And that's one of the things I think that was the hardest for me in my life, and even still to this day, is that just because I am where I'm at spiritually, mentally, emotionally, all the hard ass work that I have done my whole entire life to get to this point today, doesn't mean that I don't hurt, doesn't mean that I don't feel sadness, right?
That's
doesn't
right.
mean that I don't cry, and need love and support. As a matter of fact, people like us who have been through so much and who are choosing to walk the path of light and ascension and devotion, we kind of need the love the most, because the healers are the one who've been through hell and back. And the reason why we are healers is because of all the hell that we have had to face. Right?
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, your story was really intense. And so that's going to bring me now to our little divine, well, not little, but our huge divine encounter, and our synchronicity and our twist of fate, because we both were crying out. We both were calling out to God at that time period. And it's just incredible what happened to us, because it is hands down, no doubt that we were divinely placed in each other's lives in June of 2009.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to share our story here today of our beautiful divine encounter on that day we met in the summer of 2009. So would you like to actually start that off?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
This is my favorite love story. Not just because it's ours, but because it was divinely orchestrated, and it's just so magical.
Yes.
And I just love sharing this story. And so, yeah, let me just kind of go back to that 2007, 2008 period real quick, where I was at that lowest point crying out to God.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Something for me, in hindsight, the magic actually started at that moment, because a short time after I was getting off the train to pick up my car, and I was, as I was leaving the station, I was sitting at a traffic light, and as I was sitting there, I happened to just kind of glance over, and I noticed a pub that was located there. Now, I always knew it was there. I passed it probably tens of thousands of times in the time that I lived in the area. It was on my daily route. So, but I never had an interest in going in there, never even thought about it. But that day, as I'm sitting at that traffic light, the minute the light turned green, it was something magnetic that literally started to pull my car into the parking lot, which I had to cross traffic to get to, and there was literally resistance in my steering wheel. And I remember it vividly, because I couldn't quite understand what was this force that was literally driving me to move into that parking lot. So I just went with it, because I'm the type of guy that learned to really not resist much, just go with the flow of it. So I just went with it, found myself sitting in this parking lot now, just staring at the side of this pub, just thinking to myself, am I really going to go in there? I did. So I went in there, I had my cocktail that day, and I left. Now, a long story short is that every single day since that moment, at the same exact time every day, I had a calling to go back to that pub. I stood in the same exact spot, had the same exact cocktail, and left at the same exact time. Okay? It just became part of my daily routine. Now, this was a little out of my character, okay? I like to mix things up, change the scenery. I don't like routine like this, right? So, but I just went with it. So now, fast forward, okay? And here we are a year and a half, 2 years later into 2009, right? I believe it was around June, maybe, of 2009.
Yeah, it was June. Yeah,
So,
June 2009.
June? Okay. So here
Yeah,
I
it was
am.
June because I remember going to like the fireworks festival in July, like kind of looking for you. So it was
Okay.
definitely in June.
And that was only, had to be a week or two thereafter, maybe a couple weeks.
Yep.
But so I'm there and standing in my same spot. I have a friend with me, excuse me, and we're just having our normal conversation. And then all of a sudden, the front door opens, and it was this explosion of white light like I had never seen before in my life. I kid you not. It was so powerful, it literally blinded me. I'm standing there. My friend, his back is to the door. So I'm looking over his shoulder, straight at the door, completely blinded, mesmerized at the same time, curious as well. So I'm fixated on this light. And within moments, you came walking out of this light. It was like the white light morphed into you. And you walked through, and I actually saw your aura, everything. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever witnessed in my entire lifetime. And I just remember you walking towards me, and I was just so in awe by what I was seeing, completely mesmerized. And as luck would have it, and of course there is no luck, this is part of the divine orchestration, you literally stopped short and stood right behind my friend. You did whatever you were doing at that time, and then shortly thereafter, I remember another woman walking in, and she joined you. So I had assumed at that time she was your friend. So
Yeah, I was looking for a bartending job because I had just lost my job, and I literally was like, oh my God, like I need a job. And my friend that was with me said, Jenna, you should go bartend at this pub by the train station because it's really cool and they have bands play and all that. And I think you would really like it. And so I went there kind of like desperately seeking a job. That's the only reason I was there. And I've never seen that place before. And I lived in that area for several years.
Yeah.
So I never saw that. I never even knew what the place was.
Yeah, well, here's where our fate was about to change, because I overheard you talking to your friend, and then I heard you say something about a band. And it was that caught my attention, because the friend that I was with was a pretty well-known drummer from the area. And so music was his thing. And so I literally looked at him immediately, and I tapped him. I said, Chris, you need to go strike up a conversation with that woman behind you. She just said something about a band. Just go find out what she's talking about, and and let's just see where it takes us. So he did. Without hesitation, he turned around. Next thing you know, you two are talking, and I'm just kind of in the background observing, and eventually got pulled into the conversation. And so at that moment, somehow you guys got on the topic of astrology. It had to do, I think, with a lot of the similarities that were happening. You were a musician, he was a musician, right?
Yeah, we started. We started chatting. I started to do I'm sorry for the dog in the background. That's my baby. She wants to be a part of this awesome connection as well. So
she's not included. So
she's not included. So she's going to be a part of our interview today.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was in 2009. So I just started to really get involved with numerology and astrology. Right. So I was like practicing on people. I thought it was really fun. And so I started to talk to your friend because you were like Mr. Cool. You were like kind of just standing. Yeah, he was sitting down. You were standing up. You kind of had your arms folded like you were just Mr. Cool. You know what I mean? And I was just like, okay, I'm going to talk to this guy. So I asked him. We started to talk.
Completely paralyzed.
So
not trying to be cool, just paralyzed.
Well, that too. So he and I just started talking because if you remember, I said, where does your band practice? Like, where does your band play? And he said, we practice at Gear Rehearsal Studio. And I said, oh my God, that's where I practice too. My band practices at the same studio that you do. And he said he was in room number 3. And I said, I'm in room number 2. So we were right next to each other. And I heard of his band. And then he said he was a graphic designer. And at that time I was a graphic designer. Right. Yes. And something else we had in common. And so I said to him, what is your sign? Yeah. Because we have a lot in common. And he goes, oh, I don't know. I don't know anything about that stuff.
Yeah. Well,
and so I said, well, when's your birthday? And he said, September 3rd. And I was like, oh my God, that is my birthday.
Yeah.
That is my birthday.
And this was the most incredible moment because you have to understand at this moment, my beloved is, you're standing there in front of me. He's standing to your left. I'm standing in front of both of you. And basically we're forming a trinity at this point, right? So then what happened? No sooner do you confirm that you have the same birthday, which to me was already fascinating. Okay.
That was unbelievable.
Unbelievable because, he wasn't coming to that pub with me all the time. He'd only been there with me a handful of times in the past year and a half or whatever it was I was going there. So then unbeknownst to all of us, there was a gentleman on the other side of the bar working down under the coolers and under the bar. We had no idea he was there. And all of a sudden, a big arm comes up over the bar and he goes, excuse me. He throws his driver's license down. He says, that's my birthday. I'm September 3rd too. And
exactly,
you could hear a pin drop. The whole place. We're all just looking at each other.
I was mind blown because I was just, like I said, my spiritual journey kind of started in like 2007 when I started to have like so many synchronicities happen in my life to the point where I was like, okay, the universe is stalking me right now. Like this is something is taking place in my life that is divine. So I knew that at that moment, that 3 September birthdays at the same place at the same time, my birthday, I knew that there was something divine taking place at that moment in time.
Yes.
And the interesting thing is that your friends most likely thought it was like he and I, right? Like
he did.
Something was happening between he and I.
Trust me, he did. He was talking to me for days after, trying to convince me that you two were meant to, get along, if you know what I mean. So, in my heart and in my soul, I knew it was even bigger than that. And so what happened is we continued through that encounter. There was just this incredible energy exchange between us, if you remember.
Yes.
The conversations, they weren't ordinary. It wasn't like typical barroom talk or anything like that.
No.
Just the positivity and the topics we were talking about life and in general.
It was peculiar. It was peculiar because we felt like we already knew each other.
Yes.
And so what was interesting is that I wasn't looking for a relationship at the time at all. I was trying to become famous. Like my goal was to be famous. My band, was looking for a manager. We were doing really, really well. I was doing gigs all the time and I wasn't looking for anything at all. So in my mind at that moment, I wasn't thinking like, oh, this guy, this guy's going to be like my partner. Like, you know what I mean? I wasn't thinking that at all. So originally I thought because I started to talk about my band to you and you told me that you were interested in managing my band, that you were looking for a side project, that you might be interested in maybe working together with my music career. And I thought,
and that was the truth. I was looking at the potential of working with a band or an artist, somebody that I could, enjoy music, with them and through them, because I'm a lover of music, but I wasn't a natural born musician, but I just loved music so much that I wanted to be around it and have an opportunity to express creatively with whoever it was I chose to work with.
Right. Yeah. And so I thought God was giving me the gift of finally finding a manager, because at the time I was also crying out for a manager and to get signed and to get a record deal. Right. So I'm like, oh my God, this is a sign, like, my music career. So we start.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
And to be honest, I didn't really know what to think around that topic. But what I did know is that as we continued to talk and that energy was being exchanged, there was a flame being reignited inside of me that I hadn't felt in a very long time. And by the time the conversation was over and we had to depart, I just remember getting in my car and racing back to my house. I ran to my bedroom, went into my nightstand, pulled out a journal, and put my hand on the paper, and it just started moving a million miles an hour, and I couldn't even begin to tell you what I was writing at that moment. But I just know it. I kept going and going and going, and it was pages full. Okay? That was the first time that I pulled out a journal in more than a decade. I didn't even know why at that moment, but boy, something really sparked inside of me. And it just inspired me to want to write again.
Yeah. And the fun thing, as I'll share this little piece here, is that in the beginning of what you wrote, it said, I don't know what's happening now, but there's this girl, her name is Jenna, and something special is happening. You mentioned the white light. Experience. And, this is tangible, right? Most people can say, oh yeah, we all have a little love story and a honeymoon story about when we're all falling in love, but this is very different.
Yes.
And again, this isn't in a vain type of way, because you and I have been through so much adversity, which we're going to share here today. Yes. So this wasn't like, ooh, goo goo gaga, fallen in love type of stuff, right? No. This was something bigger than us that was taking place, something divinely orchestrated that took us both, and literally the energetic put us at the exact same place at the exact same time, because our lives were meant to change forever at that moment, right? So your journal is tangible. And I loved that you wrote about it, because you were like talking about what you witnessed from your perspective. And then I wrote in my journal what I was experiencing from my perspective, which is really cool. Right.
As I was writing in my journals, the one thing I realized is what we were experiencing was much bigger than both of us. And I didn't quite understand really what it was, but I just knew I needed to respect it. And, that is what I did from moment one. So opportunity we had to have an encounter, an exchange, it came from the highest level of respect and honor for you already.
Right. I remember that. Yeah, it was very different. So we started to connect for a little while, but what started off was kind of just like a business relationship where you became my band manager.
Yes.
And we started to meet up often, but we would talk business. It would be meeting up for lunch to drop off CDs, or we would have to go over some type of plan for the band for booking gigs and things like that. Right.
Yes.
So now remind you, I wasn't looking for a relationship. I was very kind of to myself, because being a young girl in the music industry, okay, a front lead singer of a popular band, all right, I was doing most of the work myself. So I was doing a lot of the bookings. I was doing all of the graphic design, all of the creations. I was doing a lot. And so I had to kind of take on the business side of things. And unfortunately, as most know, in any entertainment industry, right, whether it be modeling, acting, right, even in your old industry, you know,
Yes.
the men were very fresh, man. Their intentions were one thing. And I got to tell you, that was not easy for, you know, young Jenna, you know, trying to make it in the music career and music scene. And all of these men just wanted one thing.
Yes.
You know, and you could see how all of these celebrities would give in, because it was, you know, they proposition you that you need
Yes.
them, and oh, I can get you the big gig if you do this, right? So when you came along, I was very guarded. Even though I knew that there was something special taking place, I was still very guarded, because I was like, oh God, I'm not going to let this happen, right? I'm not going to let another one try to like sleep with me, right?
Yes.
So I wasn't really giving you eye contact. I was kind of just showing up, doing my thing, right? And we would leave, but we were having a wonderful relationship.
Yes.
Right? So, excuse me. So we met one time at this one place that we would connect at, called the Downtown.
Yes.
And you want to share that story?
Yes, sure.
When the spark?
Yeah, because so we meet up at this restaurant, this bar restaurant, and we were having some lunch, and I just remember standing on the corner of the bar, and the same guy was with me again, and so it was us three, and we're having a nice exchange, just talking about real life, and then I remember my friend looking up at you and asking you, can I ask you a question? And he says, and of course you willingly accepted, sure. And he said, why did you go blonde? And it was at this moment that I became kind of floored on many levels, because first, you agreed to answer without hesitation. Second, you were brutally honest. And third, where it led me was unexpected, but powerful.
Yep.
So your response to him was basically, I went blonde because when I was a child, I had a really difficult life filled with abuse, right? Hardships, etc.
Yep.
And you said, I wanted to basically change the persona of who I am. I wanted to reinvent myself. And that was part of the reason why I went blonde, to become this new person. So I changed my name to Jenna, right? Which was a variation of your legal name. And you said, and I decided to dye my hair blonde. And that was a start for you. So I looked at you and I was just very intrigued by the story. But what happened in the midst of that is I kind of looked over at you and you started telling a story even about your mother.
Yeah.
And I remember this vividly. And you started talking about how your father passed away when you were only one. Your mom ended up in a very abusive relationship, and that was part of the abuse, the extension of the abuse that you even experienced.
Yeah.
And I remember you telling this story, and as you were telling the story, I kind of looked up at you, and at the same time you looked over at me, and for the very first time, our eyes locked.
Yeah.
And I was not prepared for what was about to happen. But I just remember immediately an explosion of white light. And I literally felt myself kind of like a vacuum turn inside out, if you can imagine that.
Yeah.
And in this light, like a roller coaster, I started journeying what turned out to be your soul. And I went on a very wild ride. And I saw everything. I saw your past, I saw your present, and I saw your future. And this overwhelmed me so much, what I had seen and then what I learned, that I literally remember just kind of bracing myself for a fall. I clinched onto the edge of the bar, and I really thought I was going to collapse. That energetic exchange was that powerful. In that moment, I recall you and my friend kind of looking up at me, and as I started to come back into the present awareness, I remember you both just asking me, "Are you okay? Everything all right?"
Yeah, you turned extremely pale.
Yes.
Like you looked like you were gonna faint. Like you got really pale, you got really quiet, you looked like you were gonna faint. And then you literally said, "Excuse me," and you literally like walked fast to the bathroom.
Yeah, I had doubts that I would even make it there, but I did.
I was like, does he get to poop himself?
So, well, it wasn't that emergency, but I had to. But I did find myself at the sink, splashing cold water on my face, and I just looked up in the mirror and I said, "What the hell is going on here?" And I think it was at that moment that I realized what was really happening was I was having a spiritual experience.
Yeah,
there was no other way. It was deja vu, and especially with what I'd seen. Okay, I connected so deeply to your past, your pain, all the emotions. I felt it all at my core. Yeah. And from there, I was shocked to see what your future was. And I didn't even know how to channel it in that moment. So when I came out of that bathroom, I remember just looking up at you and my friend. I said, "Listen, excuse me, I'm going to have to excuse myself and leave. I'm sorry, but I just have to go."
Yeah. So you stormed out and left me there by myself. And I'm literally sitting there going, what the heck just happened?
Yes.
Because on my perspective, though, from my perspective, so that was the first time I looked in your eyes, because I wasn't giving you any eye contact for the first few months of us connecting.
Yes.
So when I looked into your eyes, I felt something as well. I didn't have the same exact experience as you did, but I felt like there was this download that came into me where I said, I know this man. I know this guy. I've been with him before. And I know that what is taking place is divine, and that you are more than just my band manager.
Yes.
And at that moment, I was feeling that, we were reconnecting again from being together before in another lifetime.
Yes.
And it was like conviction. I started to feel like, oh my God, because I was so comfortable with you. And our connection and relationship was very different, because it was very like family-like. Like we knew each other, like we were picking back off where we left off.
Yes.
So you text me like 5 minutes later, and you're like, I need to see you again. I'm intrigued. And I'm thinking to myself, you need to see me again. You just left. You could come back here for starters if you want, but you left. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And so you said, how about tomorrow?
Yes. I had to race home. And right and journal again because the energies that came through me were just so powerful.
And it was overwhelming.
I had to put it on paper. I had to.
Yeah, and everything that was happening to us, it was overwhelming. Put it this way. I've been awake and spiritual my entire life. Okay. Yes. So we're going to move into more of these divine synchronicities now. But my synchronicity started when I was a little girl, when my father passed away. When I was a little girl, he used to speak to me through the heater vent. When I was little, my mom and my aunt used to say that I would literally run and laugh and giggle, and I would literally hear him speaking to me through the heater vent. And I would be like, Daddy, and I would be all happy, and I would literally be talking to him. So I personally believe that my father was my guardian angel for the majority of my life until I met you. And I do believe that he handed you the baton.
Yes.
And after you and I connected, I believe that his soul decided to move on. But my first synchronicity that was so beautiful was my entire childhood. I started to see 10:10 on the clock all the time. Now I'm talking from a little girl all the way up till even now, I still see it, but through my childhood. And it was so intense. I remember saying to my family, that's Daddy. That's my daddy talking to me. And I knew it with conviction. And so then my aunt, his sister started to see it. My cousin started to see it. My mom started to see it. And they started to truly believe me that my dad was communicating with me, right?
Yes.
So the crazy thing happened was when I was 12 years old, I was looking through a photo album and I was looking at my dad because I kept him very close to me growing up because my childhood was not a good childhood. I was very sad and I went through a lot of abuse and bullying. And I was suicidal. I felt very alone here. And little did I know later on in life, when I started to learn about star seeds and things like that, that what I was experiencing was normal. It was actually a star seed thing. And I was like, oh, thank God I'm not crazy, right? And so as I'm looking at my dad's pictures, which I was doing all the time, I always looked at this album. But on this particular day, a paper falls out from behind the album. And it was surprising to me, right? So I pick up the paper and it's my father's death certificate. It's the first time I've ever seen this before. And it literally said, time pronounced dead, 10:10.
Yeah.
And I was bawling my eyes out. I was like, oh my gosh, I knew it. I knew this was my dad this entire time. So that was my first really big divine synchronicity.
Yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to kind of paint that picture just to share that my entire life has been really divinely orchestrated,
Yes.
especially leading up to you and our journey together.
And you may recall even at the beginning of our relationship, 1010 was one of the first numbers that came into my awareness that I started seeing all the time too. And I started seeing it a lot with you as well. So I found that to be very interesting. So after our encounter that day at the bar, when I ran home and journaled, I reached out to you immediately. We agreed to meet for coffee the next morning. So we met up at a local coffee shop, and I couldn't wait to sit down and talk with you because I had such clarity after I had a chance to journal and to actually read what I wrote. I had a clear picture of really what was happening. So we sat down, and I just remember just cutting right to the chase, as they say. And I leaned into you, I said, Jenna, I have something to share with you. I said, but you're going to think I'm absolutely insane. Mm-hmm. And you kind of joked on me. You said, I don't think so. It would take a lot for me to think that, something along those lines. And I said, good, because I need that kind of open mind right now. So I said to you, I said, listen, I saw everything. I saw everything in your soul. I traveled your journey to this point. I saw your past, your present, your future. I feel your pain. I said, but I know how this story ends. And you kind of looked at me, with curiosity. You're like, and I said, I already know you're going to be my wife. And I think you had to brace for your own fall, because I thought you were going to fall backwards off your chair. So, but actually, after you caught yourself, your reaction really surprised me a little bit, because you said something to the effect like, it really, it didn't surprise me because I saw some things too and felt some things too.
Yeah, you said you're going to be my wife one day, and it did stun me a little, because I never wanted to get married, like, ever. Like, I was the kind of girl that's like, I'm never getting married. I'm never having kids. I'm never buying a house.
Yes.
Never.
And
Right.
this wasn't, and believe me, this wasn't what I wanted to see either, because I shared that same position with you. I was not on the search for a companion or a wife or anything. I was just out that day following the magnetics of what took me there.
Right. Yeah. And I wasn't surprised, because I knew that something divine was taking place between us. I really did. I mean, I had conviction that there was something special. And I always used to say, my dad brought you to me as a gift in the beginning, but I definitely knew there was something really special taking place when you told me that.
Yes.
And
shortly thereafter, if you remember, you actually did get hired by that bar, that pub, and you started bartending there, which actually was unbeknownst to me until you actually texted me and said, I'm at the bar right now working. And I stopped in, and I remember just coming up to the bar. You looked down at me and waved, and you came walking up to me to greet me. And without hesitation, I leaned into you and I said, listen, I have something to tell you. And you said, what's that? And I said, you don't belong here. I said, you really shouldn't be working here. And
you're like, I don't think you should be working here. And I was like, what do you mean, dude? I need money.
Yeah.
I was like,
yes,
I need a job.
Not what you wanted to hear.
What do you mean I shouldn't be working here?
But
you said, I feel this need to protect you.
Yes.
There's this calling and need that I need to protect you.
Yes.
And it's crazy, because just even fast forward a little bit to now, like the entire time that we've been together and known each other, you literally act as my protector. It's like you were sent to me to protect me in all of my life, to watch over me and to keep me safe while I healed and spread my wings to fly. You were always the one that was watching over me, which kind of reminded me of a guardian angel as well, because that was what my dad did for me.
Yes.
It was like he handed you the baton.
Yes.
But okay, so the crazy thing was, we started to connect a lot after that.
Yes.
And we found ourselves wanting to be together all the time.
Yes.
And we slowly started to get together, and we were getting closer and closer. And I'll never forget the day that I grabbed your hands and I started to connect energetically into you through your energy fields.
Yes.
And I felt all your pain.
Yes.
And I said, oh my gosh, you've been through so much pain. And I feel that I'm here to help you heal your pain.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
And so I told you that for the next few months, I want to focus on healing all of our pain together.
Yes.
Because I felt that we were brought together to heal, and that we had a lot of work to do, because we were going to have a very big mission in the future.
Yes. Yes.
And so we kind of hid ourselves away for several months, away from everybody. And we just worked on our healing, but specifically yours, because you had to, overcome all of that stuff from your father and your brother being murdered.
Yes.
And we just spent all this time healing each other.
Yes. And I remember giving you the warning. I said, listen, I am a high-speed freight train. Okay.
Yeah.
That's speeding out of control. You want nothing to do with this. This is not a time to try to step in front of this train and stop it.
Right.
And your response really, again, just shocked me because you grabbed my hands, you squeezed them tight, and I'll never forget this moment. And you said, I'm going to help you. I want all of your pain.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. That's right.
And I said, okay, can't say you weren't
And
warned.
so we spent months healing your
Yes.
karma, and all of your stuff started to come to the surface to be healed. And I basically just held you the entire way.
Yes.
So we both became a catalyst to each other's healing,
Yes.
to each other's growth and expansion. And our love was the first catalyst that woke us back up to our truth of who we are.
Yes.
Which was incredible. And so just fast forward a little bit, our love became so intense that all of a sudden, you know, we were celebrating our love and we were thinking this was magical. Everything was perfect and amazing. And then the next thing you know, within about a year, all of this bad stuff started to happen to us.
Yes.
I mean, it was like all of the darkness, all of the density, all of the karma that we both were carrying from our lifetime started to come to the surface to be healed.
Yes.
Because little did we know that just like what's happening on the planet, we're ascending. We're on an ascending planet, right? So what's happening with ascension? The more light that we bring into our body, the more darkness comes up to be
Yes.
healed. Because when you ascend, you cannot bring karma, density, darkness, trauma, grief. You cannot bring those things with you to the higher realms.
Yes.
So we didn't realize at the time that we were activated, that we became activated and we had an awakening. And now all of a sudden, all of the darkness started to come up, and it was unlike anything I've ever imagined.
Yeah.
We started to be attacked by everyone and everything. We started to lose all of our friends, our family, our businesses, my band. Everything literally started to fall apart.
Yes.
I couldn't even believe it because it was confusing at the time because we weren't really understanding it.
Yes.
But we were like, what the hell is going on? Because we were so in love and we had all of these magical synchronicities taking place. We knew that we were brought together and we wanted to share that love with everybody.
Yes.
I mean, we kept bringing everybody in.
Yes. And we
Go ahead.
And the creation that was coming out of that love was really just magical. And it was amazing to see it in action. I mean,
Yeah.
even in all my years and businesses I've built and successes that I've realized, nothing ever compared to this. We
No.
created some things out of nothing but pure love. And these
I mean,
projects,
we created beautiful businesses.
oh yeah, these projects, I mean, within a short time, we were landing and securing major contracts and deals and things that were putting us, down this path where we felt we were going to be able to circle back and literally just take care of our families, right? Because that was at the forefront of a lot of our decisions. A lot of our conversations always started with that. How do we nurture our love, right? How do we
And help
co-create
others.
through love? But how do we help
Yeah.
others, and especially
Right.
our families?
Right. Right. So we created these beautiful businesses and we
Yes.
had nothing but amazing intentions. And then, with my music career and your career and my business, all this stuff was literally like a volcano. I mean, all of these magical things were taking place and we were thinking, okay, this is amazing.
Yes.
And then out of nowhere, everything started to fall apart. It was like our business got stolen from us. The band ended. We lost everything and everyone, and it became very heavy for us. I remember we were like, what the heck is going on in our lives right now? Why is this happening?
Yes.
And so what we didn't realize is that source energy, because we were activated, because we just had an awakening, we literally were on the fast track of our ascension journey.
Yes.
We didn't realize that we were twin souls that were connecting in a divine Hiero Gamic union relationship, and that we were supposed to refine ourselves and heal ourselves and transmute and alchemize every single thing inside of ourselves, inside of each other, from our past lives, so that we could be a true vessel of light for these times of ascension.
Yes.
But we had no freaking idea that that's what was happening.
No.
And it was intense. It was so heavy. I don't even know how we made it through that time period, because I mean, I would literally be crying my eyes out every night, wondering, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? Because you and I started off, it was so amazing and magnetic, but then all of a sudden, all of this bad stuff started to happen.
Yes. It's like darkness just showed up everywhere and literally tried to destroy us and our union.
That's right.
And I just remember.
Well, that too. Yes.
I just remember. I mean, even some of our friends, if you remember, they made it. It seemed like they made it a personal mission to try to break us up. I remember them trying to pull us apart. You know, when we wanted to be together, they wanted to. You know, they were trying to send us off in different directions. Always, they would create conflict, try to create conflict between us that didn't even exist.
And we tried to share our story with everybody because we were so excited about all of our divine synchronicities.
Yes.
So one of the other amazing things that I want to mention here is, I kid you not, this is not an exaggeration. Okay. I spent the day yesterday literally writing out all of the synchronistic things that had happened to us. Right. So my angels and guides use my birthday. They use September 3rd, which is my birthday, and they use October 22nd, 10/22, which is the day that Saha and I decided to get married. Looking back in time, however, we wish we would have done things a little differently, because a lot of the the old 3D way of getting married is very different than what we would do now, right? That binding contract.
Yes.
But we decided to get married on October 22nd. Okay. So I have at least 20 times that my angels, guides, the universe, source energy, whatever we want to call it. Okay. Used my birthday and our wedding day in our lives when something magical was taking place.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm just going to share a couple really quick because we'll be here forever. But I just want to share that we'll go back a little bit. So the day we met, there were 3 September 3rd birthdays. Then we go to get an apartment together. The apartment number is 222, okay, which 22 is my master number. That's the number that has really been following me everywhere my entire life. So the apartment number was 222, and the landlord's birthday was 9/3. And I'm not exaggerating. And so then we went to this cafe to plan for our wedding, to talk about cake and things like that, right? We're telling the story in this cafe together. And we didn't know that it was the owner that we were telling the story to, right? So we're like telling a story about our love. And he's like, oh my gosh. He's like, that's a beautiful story. And he's chiming in. And I said, yeah. And the day that we met, there were 3 September 3rd birthdays at the exact same time. Lola, remember?
Yes.
And he goes, that's my birthday.
And what was interesting,
and I was like, oh my God.
And what was interesting about that one is when we walked in, I mean, there was a line out the door. It was a very popular local place. And we were just waiting in line, and he approached us. So magnetics was in place again, right? So
exactly.
Out of anybody in that line he could have chosen to walk to, he walked all the way down the line, and he stopped at us and just started conversing with us. And somehow he was just so curious about our love and this and that.
He wanted to know how we met.
Yes.
He wanted to know our story. And then literally this guy had my birthday 9/3 again. Okay.
Yes.
So then it just kept happening. Okay. We would be walking our dog in a park. And remember the guy at the park, and he's like, it was my birthday that day we were walking Penelope. I said, oh, today's my birthday. He goes, it's my birthday too. So it was literally that much.
Only guy in the park with us.
All the time. I mean, I could sit here and tell you all of them.
Yes.
But then the our guides started to use 1022 all the time to get my attention.
What about the wedding?
Oh, the wedding.
So at the
Yeah.
wedding, so
You were telling the
at
story.
the wedding, I was telling the story of how we met and the synchronicity, the divine
As
synchronicity.
part of our vows.
Yes. So I told that story, and when I was done, and there was that moment of, breaking up and talking, etc. A comedian that we actually hired, who was from, Nashville, Tennessee, flew up, right, did our wedding, and he's standing there listening to the story, and no sooner did we finish, he reaches in his pocket, he pulls out his driver's license, and he goes, "I'm September 3rd." And the whole place, I mean, there was just an outburst, the whole place. It was like they got to see the magic firsthand. Because
you were telling the story as part of your vows to our audience, to everybody that was there. About 100 people at our wedding.
Yes.
And he was like, on the day we met, there were 3 September 3rd birthdays, and he's telling the story. And then literally as he stopped, the comedian couldn't help himself.
Yes.
He comes over and he's got his license, and literally it was like magic. Everybody could see the magic.
That's right.
For themselves at that very moment, that we weren't lying.
Yeah. You could hear a pin drop at first, and then there was just this outburst of celebration, really is what it felt like from people. So,
absolutely. Because this was like, people heard us talking about this all the time, but to actually witness it in person was really magical. So then, now it's this whole, 1022 thing, and I kid you not, I want to say all of the people in my life right now, all have October 22nd as their birthday. I mean, the last girl that I met, right? This girl, she's got 1022 for her birthday, right? And we're talking, and I told her about our 9-3 story, and she tells me her father that passed away when she was 14, his birthday was 9-3.
Yes.
So this is just a little taste of what goes on in our life.
Yes.
And it's all the time.
Yes.
All the time.
So the other day when you were going through all these synchronicities, right, and pulling all these dates and events that actually happened that were synchronistic, one of the things you surprised me with was you came walking to me with a picture, and you said, "Babe, you're not going to believe this. Okay, all these years I've been walking around with your old college football picture in my wallet." Now, I had no idea you even had this. I had no idea you were walking around with it. Okay, so 14 years you're walking around with this thing, right?
Right.
And now, the backstory is I played college football. I played at a very high level, and when I arrived to freshman camp, my first season, I remember walking in, and my number was always 44, which I was drawn to ever since I had awareness. So 44 was always my number, which we know is another divine number. But when I walked into camp, I was an underclassman, so I was a nobody at that moment. And I couldn't have 44 because an upperclassman already had the number. So the trainer and coach comes to me and he says, "Go ahead and pick whatever number you want." So I just look over without hesitation, magnetics. I remember vividly, I just locked on a jersey and I said, "I want that jersey right there." And it was 39. So you come out the other day. Now I forgot about that. Okay. So time passes, right? And you go, "Babe, look at your picture. What do you see?" And I go, "Oh man, come on. 39, 9-3, of course." So this was being divinely orchestrated long before you were even in my awareness. Okay?
Exactly.
It's not a coincidence of all numbers.
No.
I never once in my entire lifetime looked at the number 39 but boy, did I lock on it that day, and it didn't have any significance to me at that moment. It was just a number. But it's funny how things come back.
And when you and I share our story together, just how many synchronicities that we've shared from our childhood. I mean, down to, going to 4 colleges, the things that we share that are alike are very eerily familiar. I mean, eerily familiar. And we, like I said, we have an age difference between us. So it's very interesting how this has happened.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's move into, I want to talk a little bit about, so everything in summary, we were brought together to unravel everything that we were carrying karmically.
Yes.
So we could be a true twin soul, right? Because I believe that we are twin souls.
Yes.
And we could truly be a divine, sacred, spiritual marriage of Hiero Gamic union, right? For ourselves, our highest spiritual path, and for humanity right now during these times of planetary liberation and ascension. So what happened between us, a lot of people will say, oh, you guys must have it perfect. You've been together all this time. You have this magnetic explosive love, right? And all of these, rainbows and cupcakes and butterflies and unicorns and all this magical fairy stuff, right?
Yes.
So I'm just here to share because this is something that, we all need to talk about, right? We should always be our true, authentic self, no matter what in life. We should always share the truth in transparency. And divine unions, although they sound very beautiful and sacred and special, and they are not easy. They are not easy. It's kind of like people that are choosing ascension, people that are choosing to awaken, and people that are choosing to stay asleep. Okay. Yeah. This path is not for the weak. And so you and I have literally been facing our darkness, overcoming our karma. We have been each other's mirror for the things in ourselves that needed healing the most, right? So all of our triggers came to the surface. Mm-hmm. All of our wounds came to the surface. All of the things within ourselves that needed to be healed and recognized came to the surface within our relationship. Okay. So this hasn't been an easy, smooth journey for you and I.
No.
The love has been magnetic and explosive. The synchronicities have been divine. We have been through so much together these last 14 years that really are truly, the only word that comes to my mind is divine. Yes. It really is. However, when you're choosing the path of divinity, you're choosing the path of hierogamic union, you're choosing the path as a spiritual leader, right? Anything that's of a higher caliber, where you're choosing to advance yourself, your consciousness, your soul, right?
Yes.
It's not an easy journey. No. It's not an easy journey. That's the bottom line. It is insane. It is so hard because we are making a commitment to ourselves, to God, to each other. But here's the crazy thing, right? All of our stuff came to the surface to be healed in one another. And one of the main things about a spiritual relationship is that you both together are choosing to walk through the fire together, no matter how hard it is, no matter if you don't agree with your partner or if you agree with your partner, and you're agreeing to love one another unconditionally and holding your partner's spiritual path at the forefront of the relationship. Okay. So in the beginning, we tend to cling. We tend to, be jealous. We have all of these things that come to the surface of what we feel a relationship's supposed to be. Right.
Yes.
And so when you embark on this spiritual journey to become a true sacred marriage, a sacred marriage is one where you're holding hands through the fire. No matter how hard it is, you're not judging your partner for all of the shit that they have done prior to meeting you.
That's right.
The things that you have done and I have done in my childhood, the things, the mistakes that we have made, the negativity, right? The things that we're not so proud of. These are things that we're choosing to honor without judgment in one another.
Right.
As we continue to heal and refine ourselves and face our shadow, our own shadow, but also in one another, right? So we become a mirror, and that mirror is an opportunity for our highest growth and expansion, Because without a partner to look into, how are you ever going to know what your weaknesses are? How are you ever going to know where you need mastery in yourself?
That's right.
Because it's easy to just walk the path alone. I always say this to my other people that I have on the show, because we talk about this stuff a lot, is it's very easy to just, hermit yourself away, not really have friends, not really be on the ascension path and be in your own little bubble. It's easy just to do that. Go to the Himalayan mountains and go meditate.
Yes.
But it's not easy to join union with someone else who is also on their highest spiritual journey of, self-mastery, right? And literally being a mirror for each other. So you're looking in the mirror and you're together so that you can balance each other out, right? So every single person on this planet has 50% masculine and 50% feminine inside of our bodies. Okay. Inside of our energetic. That's just the way we are made. Okay. And so, I always tell people that, who are trying to be too much of one thing. Newsflash, we have both inside of us.
Yes.
So relationships are designed to bring that Hiero-Gamic union, okay, which is the perfect balance of your feminine and the perfect balance of your masculine in yourself within perfect harmony and balance. And so the opportunity that we have within a relationship with a significant other, okay, even friendships, okay, all relationships are designed to bring us to the highest, best version of ourselves. Relationships are designed to piss us off.
Yes.
They're designed to trigger us. Otherwise, how are we going to grow?
That's right.
Right?
Yes.
So in this sacred marriage, you and I, in particularly, have chosen to be non-judgmental, unconditional, and supportive of each other's spiritual journey.
Yes.
And that means that, holy shit, it is not always fun.
No.
It is not. It has been so hard. But here we are, 14 years of this, and our true commitment and dedication is to serve our highest self and to serve God's source at the highest capacity. So that way we can clear our vessels of all negativity and distortions and miasma, right? And all of the stuff that's wedged inside of our bodies. So we can be the most purest vessel of God light that filters through our body. And then we are together side by side, carrying those light frequencies, those higher vibrations as one in Hiero-Gamic union, so that we can help humanity be liberated. We can help humanity ascend. That is what a sacred spiritual marriage is all about.
Yes.
It's not perfect. You want to add to that? Sorry, I went off on a tangent.
No, you did a great job of pretty much summing it up, but it does start with commitment. And the commitment part is to, again, the healing process and choosing to walk the path hand in hand, as we always say. So in order to do that, you have to be willing to accept all that comes with that person, like you said. You have to accept everything they once were, everything they are now, and everything they ever will be.
Right.
And as I said to you at the onset of our relationship, when we really understood what was going on, is I said, we started talking about our past and, mistakes we've made and, wrong turns we've made, etc. And I said to you, I said, why would I ever judge you for any of that?
Exactly.
Because it's all of those experiences that molded you into this beautiful divine goddess that stands before me today. Right?
Yes.
So why would I judge you for that? And to think that, this is how fragile life really is, okay? If you didn't make every single one of those choices, whether it was in poor judgment, whether it was a mistake or just a wrong turn, if you didn't make all of those choices and I didn't make all of my choices, how do we know our paths would have connected at the exact moment we needed them to?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And how do we judge each other?
Yep, one different decision.
Right, one decision.
That's right. We could have missed each other again in this lifetime.
Right. And how are we to judge one another for all of the pain and the suffering that we had to endure as a child or as a teenager
yes.
or a young adult when we're all hot messes trying to figure ourselves out?
Yes.
You know, I mean, we've all, let's face it, everybody on this planet has been through some shit.
Yes.
You know, we all are carrying so much pain. Why would we judge one another for that?
That's right.
You know, in the beginning, you know, it was definitely hard for me because I was a lot younger than I am now. And I was, you know, I would have a hard time because in the beginning of every relationship, we want to believe that, you know, we are the only one that you've ever had.
Yes.
You never had any love before.
Yes. Yes.
And that's just developing spiritual maturity along the way,
yes.
right? And so I just want to say too, let's just touch on that, you know, advice really for other couples who are on this journey. Like, you have to be an open book.
Yes.
You have to have transparency.
Yes.
You have to be truthful, open communication, and be fully committed and dedicated to your emotional clearing and your self-mastery.
Yes.
So you both have to honor each other unconditionally on the journey. Right.
Yes.
And so to me, the most important thing to having a very successful relationship, no matter if you're in a sacred union or it's a best friend or a sister or a parent, it doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, all relationships should be treated as sacred and beautiful.
Yes.
And you should honor one another. And the
Yes.
only way that they're actually going to work is if you're both on the same page.
Yes.
And with the energies taking place on the planet right now, a lot of relationships are being torn apart.
Yes.
Because what's happening is that a lot of people are coming to me asking me, you know, Jenna, you know, what can I do? You know, my marriage is falling apart. My relationship is falling apart. Please help. And when they tell me their story, it's clear why the relationship is falling apart. And that is because one of them is on the spiritual ascension journey, working on their mastery, raising their vibration, okay, cleaning their bodies out, their minds, okay? And the other person isn't.
Yes.
The other person's not on the ascension path. They're still living in 3D, you know, still, you know, bar hopping and, you know, just not prioritizing their path.
Yes.
You know, still very much in the 3D matrix.
Yes.
So there's no judgment for where everybody is on their journey right now. But for you to truly be able to be in alignment, in divine alignment, in a relationship, you both have to be on the same frequency.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's not going to work, especially in these energies.
Yes.
Right?
And the energies are only intensifying. So
that's right.
That gap is only going to grow wider. So these couples, if they're struggling now, they're only going to struggle more. And eventually they're just going to have to come to terms where it's not going to work. It just won't.
And that's hard.
If you're not aligned and you're not committed to walking the path together, it's just not going to work. You know, so people just need to understand that. And it's okay. It's okay to, you know, it's okay to have to acknowledge that and move on. It's, you know, it's, if you're at that crossroads, it's in everybody's best interest that maybe you do take those separate paths. Okay. It's not saying you can't reconnect again when that gap closes, if the other person, you know, wants to commit and starts walking that journey, they can play catch up and you can reconnect again.
Yeah. And that's, you know, and I also want to touch on how you and I together had a simultaneous white light experience. Just a very short, quick summary. just another beautiful divine thing that happened between us on our journey was that, you know, you had an NDE experience. I had an outer body experience. I literally floated to the light,
Yes.
looked down, saw my body laying on the floor. I was downloaded with insane amount of wisdom about the truth about our existence. I was downloaded with memories about you and I. We started to see into each other's past lives together. We started to find ourselves, you know, dancing in the middle of nowhere in the middle of grocery stores because we believed that we were, you know, a king and a queen in one lifetime.
Yes.
And so like our outer body experiences were another catalyst in 2013 that literally catapulted us into the next stage of our ascension path as a sacred marriage and divine union couple. Right. And so we both simultaneously had an encounter with a divine angelic light being where we both saw this being at the exact same time. Okay.
Yes.
Again, this is another tangible thing that people think we're crazy. Well, people thought we were crazy anyway at the time because we couldn't really, you know, you just couldn't get around it. Right. Yeah. We were like, oh my God, we saw this amazing light being and it downloaded information into us. And
yeah. And 10 years
but anyways,
ago,
we both saw.
Yeah. 10 years ago, nobody was talking about this stuff.
And nobody was talking about this at the time.
Yes.
Right. So, you know, I always say that we were kind of like that second wave of awakening where, you know, we were very awake and in tune, you know, in 2010 when we got together and not a lot of people were talking about all this stuff then, dribs and drabs, but now it's like everywhere. Yes. And so people did think we were crazy. We did lose a lot of people because they thought we were crazy. There was just no alignment in that. But this being was a tall 12-foot light being that literally appeared in our old apartment that had very high ceilings.
Yes.
This being appeared. I saw it first. It had a very feminine presence, but it was androgynous because as we ascend, we become androgynous.
Yes.
And it literally like had me like, I just started staring at it. And as I was staring at it, I was mesmerized. And I said to my love, do you see this being? Do you see what I see? And he stopped and looked and said, oh my God, I see it too. And so we're both staring at this being together. We got completely silent. It was almost like this being, was speaking telepathically through us. So we couldn't speak.
Yes.
It was right. It's like it took its consciousness and plugged it into its consciousness.
Yes.
And we couldn't speak. We were just like, you know, connected.
Yes.
And we don't know how much time passed in that moment because we definitely were in a different realm. And when we came out of that, I kid you not, I literally, my consciousness was like, I was a different person. It was almost like I was a walk-in,
yes.
Right? Both of us, I knew things about our existence that I never knew prior to that experience. I was shown who I was, shown what my purpose on the planet was, why I'm here during these times, some of the people that I have been, what my higher mission is. And I was downloaded with all of this incredible galactic history. And I didn't know what I was supposed to do with it.
Yes.
Remember that experience?
Yes. And
so we both were told that we were here together to assist humanity by refining ourselves.
Yes.
This being told us that we had to master ourselves, that is our mission.
Yes.
So that way we could be of highest assistance to humanity.
Yes. And inside that moment, if you recall, one of my downloads was a mathematical formula. And I didn't quite understand it at the time. I couldn't express it until after really the next morning. I woke up out of a sleep and I just started basically auto writing, and it was, you know, all these numbers, and had no idea where it was going. But the words that kept coming to me were, this is the formula you need to be able to determine the odds of meeting your twin soul in this lifetime or any lifetime. So
Yep.
I sat with those numbers for the longest time and started calculating. And now I was fortunate because math was one of my strengths. I got really deep into the formula and honestly just put my pencil down, if you remember. And I just came to you and I said, Love, I'm just stopping here because the number is so astronomically large that the chances of meeting your twin soul in any lifetime is virtually non-existent. But inside of our downloads, if you recall, like you said, the message did come through, the message of twin soul was at the forefront of our downloads. So it was very fascinating to me. So
yes,
I still didn't quite understand though why I was given that calculation or those numbers until we started diving deep into ascension, right?
Yes.
Because we're having these experiences, so we're now going out and seeking, and we started to come across the ascension event, right? Ascension. And I remember it started with David Wilcock and others, and we just kept anything we could get our hands on to read and to discern, and we did. And it wasn't until maybe a couple years after we came across Lisa Renee, and she was talking about the universal time matrix in one of her teachings, and something went off inside of me, and I said, "Babe, oh my goodness, that was the mathematical formula. It was the universal time matrix, because the formula I was fed was exactly that. It was the 12 dimensions of our matrix, right? The construct." We have the masculine, feminine counterparts in each dimension. So it was this mathematical formula of determining the 12 times the 12 dimensions plus the subharmonics, right? So each dimension has 12 subharmonics, so 144. So the numbers, that's why it was spiraling out of control and becoming so large when I was calculating it. And I said, this is it. It's the universal time matrix. And yes, it was an accurate formula to determine the odds of meeting your twin self, your twin soul.
Your twin soul, or what people call it, twin flame.
Yes.
But, before we get ready to kind of, bring our beautiful session to an end here, I just wanted to add something too, like, the word twin flame is being thrown around way too easily these days. And at the time, it was rare to meet your twin soul, but because we are ascending and because we are being downloaded with all of these light codes and all of the universal architectures being brought back to the planet, we are now being reunited with our higher consciousness and energetics that are allowing us to actually meet our soul family a lot easier now.
Yes.
So back in the day, it was hard because we were in a very low vibrational planet.
Yes.
So to be able to reconnect with your soulmate or your soul family or your twin flame was very, very challenging.
Yes.
I mean, only the Krystic beings would be able to do that, like Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, right? Akhenaten, like they were known to be with their genetic equals. And so, a lot of people are throwing it around a little too easily.
Yes.
It's definitely not as popular, I should say, like to meet your twin flame and soul. It's a very special encounter.
Yes.
And it's not, I wouldn't say it's rare now. It's like coming online more, but it's still not as much as people are saying.
Correct.
It's very, very divine, very divinely orchestrated.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And
it's to be respected at the highest level.
Yes.
And so it's something that when you come together with your twin soul, your twin flame, your soulmate, it is for a higher purpose. It's not like in the beginning of our relationship to go party and play and drink and take ecstasy and spin in circles and just like, it's not that. It's work. It's work. And it's true devotion and commitment to the path, to the path of God, God's source and spirit, right?
Yes.
So, so, and again, the higher we raise our vibration, the more darkness and adversity comes up to be transmuted. Because the whole reason behind our awakening and spiritual journey on this planet, no matter who you are, no matter if you're in a sacred relationship or you're single, it doesn't matter. We are all here for a higher purpose. What is that higher purpose? The higher purpose is always to fall down into the darkest of layers of frequency bands in the third dimension, to ultimately find our way back to God. That is the puzzle.
Yes.
It's like a labyrinth. You come down, you get lost, you forget who you are, and you meet people along the way that help you to remember, whether it's a friend, even pets, right?
Yes.
You have these experiences, you have these divine alignments, you have these divine synchronicities, and you meet people along the way that help activate your remembrance. And so you and I have been that for each other.
Yes.
And it hasn't been the easiest journey, but it's been absolutely magical. So much love, so much honor, so much respect. And I am so blessed that we found each other again in this journey. And I am so blessed that after all of the hell that I have been through, you have been through, that we have each other to walk through these fires together.
Yes.
And to really, truly be of highest service to humanity. It really is a blessing.
Yes.
And
I'm eternally grateful as well.
So, and so I guess in closing, let me just read a little something here. And then my beloved is going to actually close us out with a special poem that you wrote me in the beginning, right?
Yes.
Of our relationship?
Yes.
Okay. So sacred relationships are designed to evolve us to our highest spiritual purpose, where we are fully committed to healing, refining, and mastering our lower center emotions, our shadow, and karma, and transforming ourselves to be true conduits of source energy. All relationships are designed for personal growth and expansion of our consciousness. They are mirrors that reflect back all things within ourselves that we either love or dislike, and we become projectors, projecting our shadow onto our partners, which gives us the highest opportunity to heal, grow, and alchemize things within ourselves that need the most healing. When we commit to walking in a sacred relationship and divine union, we are embarking on a journey of our highest spiritual potential, where we completely unravel our pain, our fears, negative patterns, allowing our hearts to open at its highest capacity, allowing ourselves to be truly intimate, vulnerable, transparent, unconditionally loving, and selfless to each other's divine path, truly walking side by side with the intention to become a full-time conduit of Hiero Gamic union, to reach your highest Christed avatar embodiment, and to assist in the healing and ascension of all of humanity, giving up self for true unity consciousness in full service and devotion to the divine plan of creation.
Beautiful.
Saha,
Beautiful.
It's all you.
Well, thank you. So one of the things that came out of this reunion with my beloved is the fact that that flame that I told you ignited at the beginning led me to really just being a poet, not even knowing it my entire life. So out of nowhere, I just started writing poetry, and I haven't stopped since. So,
and you've written me so much poetry. That's also one of the things that I love about you, is that you started writing me poetry since the very beginning.
Yeah.
Like all the time. I loved it.
Yeah.
I still love it. It's one of my favorite things.
And I still love writing it. So, okay. So this one's really special to me, and it was one of the very first ones I wrote for my beloved. I will never forget the first time your eyes locked on mine. It was like we took a journey back in time. Visions of royalty, what could this mean? Was this a king being reunited with his queen? My eyes have deceived me in the past, but this is too familiar, like it's meant to last. Everything about you, your smile, your touch, your kiss your eyes. I have known you longer than you realize. Look into my eyes if you dare. I am in the back of your mind. Do you see me there? Look harder, deeper, and through my soul. What do you see? I am standing there. Do you recognize me? I am all that was, all that is, and all that will ever be. I know you can see it because you are just like me. A celebrated reunion of you and me, orchestrated through divine synchronicity. Everywhere we went, we danced and swayed. It was deja vu, a story we played. The first time you whispered, I love you, I already knew it would end with I do. The depths of this connection set our hearts on fire. Celebrating love was our only desire. So grab my hand, take me to your field of flowers. Let's spin in circles for hours and hours. Let me hold you while we dance under the stars. Our love heals all, even our scars. The bond we share is one of a kind, one everyone craves but few will find. This love is so sacred and so pure. It will be protected at all costs, that I can assure. Will you take my hands and never let go? I love you more than you will ever know. I understand your needs so deeply. I promise to love you completely.
Aw, so pretty. Well, thank you for sharing that live.
Welcome. It's the first time I've ever shared a piece of poetry live. So,
well, you did it at our wedding.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Okay. You corrected me. I take that back. Yes. At our wedding.
The wedding, your vows were amazing.
Oh, thank you. And so were you.
So, Saha, my love, thank you so much for agreeing to share our story live here for whoever tunes in to our consciousness.
Yes.
And I hope that our story can inspire many on their journey. One of the things that we really do enjoy together is assisting other relationships, soulmate, twin flame relationships on their journey. So yeah, and anybody that is tuning in, we are totally here for you for any guidance along the way. We are all in this together, walking each other home during the most incredible time of our soul's existence. And so we all need to really just love one another unconditionally with non-judgment, no matter who you are, a friend, a stranger. Be kind to one another. You know, these times are very challenging because we are all facing so many things that are being healed within ourselves. And again, it's not just from this lifetime. These are lifetimes of things that we're carrying. And so, you know, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be truthful. It's okay to say that you're angry or that you're upset. You know, just because we're ascending, it doesn't mean we have to be positive and fluffy all the time. That's not what this is all about. This is about being your true, authentic self. And if that's crying your eyes out with a box of tissues every day to get up all of that grief and pain that you're carrying, then so be it. And so we are all in sacred relationships right now. And the most important relationship that we need to have and remember is the relationship that we have to ourself first and foremost. Number one, self-love. Then the relationship that we have with our higher power, God, the universe, all that is, the Great Spirit. Those are the two most important relationships. Then we carry that love over for ourselves for God into our divine unions with our spouse, our partners, our friendships, our families. Because when we love ourselves and we have a connection to God from deep within our soul, then all of our relationships are beautiful because we are no longer projecting all of our stuff on the other person. We are no longer projecting our pain and our fears and our insecurities, but rather we're projecting out love, just love, where we can just be there for each other in true honor and respect, unconditionally. So thank you for tuning in, my loves. We are going to close this session out with my closing prayer. Just put your hand over your heart again and close your eyes. I now seal this session with love, light, and gratitude, asking all who tune in to this consciousness space to be protected in a pillar of healing light. May all hearts be filled with love, and the spiritual wisdom we shared activate all hearts deeper into their remembrance as a divine, sovereign, eternal spirit on a cosmic journey. May all souls be reunited with their inner spirit, leading them back into balance, wholeness, all-knowing, and peace. And so it is. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am Jenna Ajna Love. This is Codes of Awakening, and I will see you next time.